I'm going by my computer.
Well, I just saw your broadcast is live.
Are we
So I
live?
think we are live. How y'all doing tonight? My name's Paul Hughes.
Hello, hello, hello. And welcome
Hello, everybody.
to finally Fantastical Friday.
That's a
Been a
mouthful.
while. Yeah,
It has, but we're back.
that
Have you
is
frozen,
right.
Paul? Oh, no.
No, I'm moving.
Okay, you're sitting still.
Yeah, I just sat still. Make everybody think, oh, what's he doing?
Just put a picture of yourself on there and be done with it.
That's
No,
it.
I tend to move around. I tend to use my hands and,
Yeah, I tie your hands behind your back and you couldn't talk, Jonathan.
Yeah. It'd be a challenge. I'd just move my head a lot, I guess.
There you go. There you go. Well, guys, we appreciate everybody that's come in so far. And
yes, Paul is sporting his summer look. His streamlined look.
Well, it was not planned. The clippers got away from me.
You know what, though? Some things are meant to be. And, maybe the man upstairs said, yeah, I want to give him a little trim there.
Yeah.
Keep him cooler in that Georgia heat. Although you've said your beard acts as a radiator, didn't you?
It does. It does.
I've
But
never heard that.
we have been real fortunate with our weather. I think today you got up to maybe 85. And
nice.
The humidity was bad.
That's not nice.
But we've not hit. Well, we did hit the 90s, and it's been a couple of months ago. It was just a brief shot of it, but we have relatively been cool, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, that's good. That's good. Because when July rolls in,
huh?
I said that's good because when July rolls in, I don't know what your hot month of the year is in New Hampshire. It's like the dog days of summer.
Usually August.
End of July, beginning of August. Yeah. Oh, again, I need a haircut. I think I say that every stream.
Let's say we say hello to some people. The very first one in the chat was Scott McClure.
Yeah,
welcome, Scott. Appreciate you coming in. And then Charlie Roger's Treasure Hunting Emporium. Welcome, Charlie. Appreciate you coming in.
Charlie is going to be doing some good reading about Spanish reals.
Yes.
Do I have mine here?
Then some guy by Rivendell Coins and then
Rivendell Coins. Oh, mine isn't here, Charlie. I'm shocked. Oh, here it is.
David Carlisle just popped in. Welcome, David. Appreciate you coming in.
And Charlie got me that one. Fun reading, Charlie. Hi, David.
And then AWR is in here.
All right. Because if you're not in here, Paul, something's wrong. Something's very wrong.
This show will go downhill in a hurry.
It's all good. It's all good. But tonight we're going to learn about counterfeiters again. I'm on a counterfeiting spree here. Not me personally. The stories, the research. You're going to talk about the New Orleans Mint, which really has a fascinating history. I mean, the only mint that kind of changed sides in our history.
I guess, David, if you don't know, that guy is Jonathan. with Rivendell Coins and Antiquities. I'm sure you probably know that. Just
Is it because our names aren't at the bottom?
don't ask me to push buttons.
Or unless he's talking
All
about you
right.
because you've changed your look. I don't know.
Well,
And then what do we have? So the counterfeiting, New Orleans Mint, and
New
we have a
Orleans
treasure
Mint.
story, as we always try to do, to get you out there searching, researching, and then we'll just spend some time chatting.
Yep. And we're going to do a Team AWR giveaway,
Sure.
sticker giveaway. If you draw the number 1 sticker, you will have a chance to win dig it out, a 1953.
And if I do that, there we go. I had to mirror my camera. This is the right.
Benjamin $50.
I really
In
like
pretty
those.
good shape.
Yeah.
So each sticker is numbered. Limited edition sticker. If you have already won 15 AWR sticker, I'm sorry, I won't have 25 different winners. So give everybody a chance to get a sticker, and we've come real close to giving it away, Jonathan.
You have. That's good to know.
In fact, Charlie was the closest so far. He drew number 2.
Did I just flip it
Charlie.
again? All right, I'm going to stop pressing buttons. I'm sorry. I was clicking buttons and I thought I was doing, and I mirrored my camera again. I'm going to leave it like this. I'm not going to do it again. Never mind me.
Okay.
Paul, I'm doing things now that I should have done when you and I were chatting before we went live. And I shouldn't press buttons and change cameras and change resolutions and do that while we're streaming. So I apologize.
There is one good thing about you pushing buttons and me pushing buttons. If you're pushing buttons, you can't end the stream.
True. That's true. Well, if you push buttons and you pop out, I'll still be here and you can come back in, can't you?
Yeah, but if I push that red button at the bottom, we're all in trouble.
Don't do that. That would be pretty bad.
Yep. Jonathan, if you want to start us off
with the counterfeiting story,
if you want to,
it is backstage.
Would that be the first one?
That would be to counterfeit is death. Nope.
If this is
nope. I guess I could start with that one if you want, but
come on.
Here, I removed it from the stream.
Okay.
I can't add things to the stream. That's you.
Oh.
Well, I can remove my things that I present on the stream. If that makes sense. It should be on the very end. There are only 3. There's Perry Hall, New Orleans, and Nolans. There you go. Excellent.
All right.
Well, Paul, the last time we streamed, which was a while ago,
yes,
I told a story about a counterfeiter from the 1950s named Francis Leroy Henning and his nickels. But for today's numismatic story, we're going to go back about 200 years from that time. And that powerful warning to counterfeit is death is something that the colonial and early American governments took very seriously because it was a significant problem during those times. Paper currency was printed throughout the American colonies and was first produced in Massachusetts in 1690. And sometimes people would attempt to counterfeit this paper money, and sometimes they succeeded in their efforts. So that warning, to counterfeit is death, was often printed on paper money, and terrible punishments, including death by hanging, were possible outcomes for counterfeiters. Benjamin Franklin wrote about the problem of counterfeiting in the American colonies during the Revolutionary War. He wrote that paper money was in those times our universal currency, but it being the instrument with which we combated our enemies, that is, the British Army, they resolved to deprive us of its use by depreciating it, and the most effectual means they could contrive was to counterfeit it. The artists they employed performed so well that immense quantities of these counterfeits, which issued from the British government in New York, were circulated among the inhabitants of all the states before fraud was detected. This depreciation was a loss to all and the ruin of many. So what Franklin was saying here is that in order to fight a war like the Revolutionary War, the American government needed to have a monetary system that would support what is necessary. They'd have to pay for soldiers and weapons and ships and food to wage that battle. And the British knew this. So the British government began to come up with ways to introduce large amounts of counterfeit money during the Revolutionary War as a way to undermine the American economy. And now, with that history in mind, our story begins in 1775 at the dawn of the Revolutionary War in my home state of New Hampshire. This is a map of New Hampshire from the 1770s. And towards the bottom of the map, near the Massachusetts border, you will see a town called Londonderry. I put a red dot on the map where Londonderry is located. And we'll come back to Londonderry in just a moment. Now, by 1775, the idea of separating from British rule was spreading across the American colonies. And at that time, there were two political parties in the colonies. There were the Whigs, who were in favor of greater self-government, if not complete separation from the British Crown. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, for example, were Whigs. And then there were the Tories, or the Loyalists, who did not want to see that separation from Great Britain, and as such, did not support the idea of revolution. The royal governor of New Hampshire at that time was a man named Sir John Wentworth. He came from a prosperous New Hampshire family who owed their prosperity in large part to their allegiance to the British Crown. And when hostilities began to break out in Massachusetts in April of 1775, that's when the battles of Lexington and Concord were fought, anti-British sentiments increased in neighboring New Hampshire. Now, these sentiments had always been there among many in New Hampshire, but now the idea of declaring our independence from Great Britain was rapidly spreading. And Sir John Wentworth saw that his time as being a royal governor was near its end. So Wentworth decided to move with his family to a more British-friendly area before things in New Hampshire got worse. And in this case, he sailed to New York City, which at the time was under British control. Now, before Wentworth left New Hampshire in 1775, he had an idea about how he could help undermine the revolutionary cause, and he convinced his friend, Colonel Stephen Holland of Londonderry, New Hampshire, to help him with his plans. Colonel Holland was a native of Ireland and served as an officer in the British colonial army during the French and Indian War, and Holland had retired from the army in 1762 and settled in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Stephen Holland had become a prosperous businessman and was by all accounts a well-esteemed citizen of Londonderry, despite suspicions from some that he held sympathies to the crown. So Governor Wentworth believed that Colonel Stephen Holland was the right person to help him carry out this plan. Governor Wentworth informed Holland that he, Wentworth, would soon leave for New York, but he asked Holland to stay in New Hampshire and to, quote, use every art to circumvent and disappoint the views of these patriots and to keep me informed. As a man with a secret but strong loyalist sympathies, Holland agreed to be Wentworth's agent. So while Sir John Wentworth was living in New York City, he arranged to have counterfeit American currency sent to Colonel Holland, who in turn would set up a network of agents who would travel throughout New England and pass these fake bills. Now, financially, it was a pretty good deal for these agents. They spent the counterfeit money. They got something of value, perhaps bottles of rum or a wool coat or a horse, and received genuine money in exchange. At the same time, though, the agents would or should have known the dangers of passing counterfeit money. These counterfeiters were not only trying to defraud people and businesses, they were more seriously considered enemy spies because they were undermining the revolutionary cause. But for a time, this counterfeiting plan was successful, and Holland and his men passed many of these counterfeit bills and caused economic damage to the people and businesses who accepted them. Now, one of Colonel Holland's agents was a man named John Moore of Peterborough, New Hampshire, and John Moore traveled from New Hampshire to Wallingford, Connecticut in 1777 to buy goods with this counterfeit money. But unfortunately for John Moore, he caught smallpox while in Connecticut and died there. A boy who lived in the home where Moore was staying found a package that belonged to Moore, and in it was a stack of counterfeit bills and letters signed by Sir John Wentworth that were addressed to a Stephen Ashe of Londonderry. And unbeknownst to them, Stephen Ashe was the code name for Colonel Stephen Holland. And as a result of this discovery, the hunt was on to locate exactly who in New Hampshire was behind passing this counterfeit currency. Later in 1777, two of Holland's other agents, David Farnsworth of Hollis, New Hampshire, and John Blair of Holderness, New Hampshire, were found found carrying counterfeit notes in Connecticut, and the men were arrested. They were brought to the military headquarters of General Enoch Poor, were tried by a military court, and these two men, likely hoping to gain some leniency, admitted everything. That they were traveling to New York City to obtain counterfeit money, that the counterfeit money they had with them at the time was given to them by Samuel Abbott of Hollis, New Hampshire, who was another one of Colonel Holland's agents. And they also named the other agents who were involved in the scheme, and in the end said that Stephen Holland was the head of the counterfeiting operation. Now, their hopes for leniency, however, did not work. Both David Farnsworth and John Blair were found guilty of treason and were hanged in Hartford. Word was immediately sent to the New Hampshire Committee of Safety about Holland's involvement in the counterfeit money scheme. And in August of 1777, Stephen Holland was arrested and imprisoned in Exeter, New Hampshire. Holland was told that he would be charged with treason and knew what the likely consequence would be if he were found guilty. However, Holland managed to escape from his jail cell, probably with the help of friends who sympathized with his views or who just thought he was innocent of the charges. And in 1778, Colonel Holland reached the safety of the British lines in New York and was awarded a commission in the British Army as an intelligence officer. John Langdon, a New Hampshire Revolutionary War general who later became the governor of New Hampshire, said of Holland at the time, "Damn him. I hope to see him hanged. He's done more damage than 10,000 men could have done." In November of 1778, the New Hampshire State Assembly voted to banish 76 loyalists from New Hampshire who had joined the British Army and to prevent them from returning to New Hampshire without written permission from the government. These fugitives, if caught returning to New Hampshire without that permission, were to be immediately put to death. And among those named on the list of traitors was Colonel Stephen Holland. But Holland never returned to New Hampshire. After the Revolutionary War ended in 1783, the British Crown could have granted Stephen Holland land in Canada for his service to the Loyalist cause. However, Holland decided to instead return to his native Ireland. Holland's wife and children stayed in New Hampshire during and after the Revolutionary War and were free to do so because they were not directly implicated in the counterfeiting scheme. But no doubt they were looked upon by many in Londonderry during and after the Revolutionary War with some degree of suspicion. While Holland would never again see his family, his home, or possessions in New Hampshire, he never suffered any punishment for his role in the counterfeiting scheme, apart from his brief time that he spent in the Exeter jail. Stephen Holland died in Ireland in January 3rd, 1801, and is buried there. Now, what happened to Governor John Wentworth? Well, after a time, he lived with his family in England. He returned to North America as the King's Surveyor General of the Woods in Canada, and in 1792 was appointed governor of Nova Scotia. Wentworth retired as Nova Scotia's governor in 1808 at the age of 71, and he and his family returned to England to live out their final days. And that is the story of how the British government used a network of loyalists to secretly pass counterfeit money to undermine the American Revolution during the war. But we know that counterfeiting money was not something that was limited to times of war. And I have another story about counterfeiting that I'll tell in another live stream. And like this story, that one also has some interesting historical twists and turns for those who were involved. But that's the story of Governor Wentworth and Stephen Holland and the counterfeit currency.
So in other words, do not counterfeit any money.
Not a good idea if you're caught. If you're not caught, you could make a considerable profit, but especially during times of war, you could end up on the end of a rope like Blair did and his accomplice.
And then buying stuff and getting real money back, that was... I don't think I could live with myself.
Well, think of these poor people. If you had a horse, or if you were selling something, you were probably paying a lot of money for it. Your livelihood depended upon it. If somebody came down with a lot of money and bought a horse and bought something else from you, and you were out that money, you didn't have an insurance company to come back or a bank to help you, or you probably couldn't obtain credit very easily. You were probably completely bankrupt. And if you were bankrupt, then that probably had a domino effect for other people. So counterfeiting was a very, very serious occurrence, and in the colonies, and the British were smart about it. They knew that was a rather secretive way of undermining the economy and hopefully bringing the American colonies to their knees.
Let's say hello to a couple of people, and we have a question.
Okay.
Say hello to Jimmy Cloak.
Hi, Jimmy. Hope you got your package by now.
Again. And John Donaldson with FLX Detectorist.
Hey, FLX.
He was one of our winners for the sticker.
That's great.
He picked number 19. So, Scott McClure said, how do people get away with counter-striking pennies and such with things like octopus and pandas and whatever? Isn't that counterfeiting?
I would argue no. Counterfeiting would be somehow taking a blob of copper, in the case of a penny, and pressing it in dies to produce a penny that is not legal tender. If you have a penny that's already been produced and is legal tender, and you punch something on it, it's still only worth a penny, and it's still
said not counterfeiting, but defacing for sure.
Defacing, yeah. I think the law says for artistic reasons you can do that with coinage. I guess the same reason that people will drill holes in them and put them on a necklace or whatever, or put them in a bezel.
And that's the same way with hobo nickels.
Right. I mean, is it defacing? Yeah, I guess strictly speaking it is. Is the government going to come after you for that? Probably not. Look at people who put the Where's George stamp on dollar bills with the number, and you can look it up online to see where that bill has circulated.
Exactly.
So probably, is it frowned upon? Yeah. Is it illegal? I think the government has bigger fish to fry. That's just my 2 cents.
Like people.
See? 2 cents?
Yeah, like people gold plating V nickels.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's different. That is counterfeiting, because you're taking a coin and you're trying to represent that it's something that it isn't.
Yep.
So yes,
And
that
that
absolutely
is
was
the
common.
reason the V nickel now has cent at the bottom,
Right. Right.
because they look so much, I guess, so much like the $5 gold piece.
Yeah, and a $5 gold piece was not common, and especially west of the Mississippi, where the settlements were a little more spread out, and you maybe didn't have a lot of people coming through with a lot of money. And if you saw that, you probably would have been taken by it. Whereas if you were a merchant in Boston or Philadelphia and you saw coins all the time, you'd probably know something's not quite right with that.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people really were fooled by that back in the day. Some people obviously were, but was it really a widespread problem, or was it, enough people got burned and contacted their congressman and something changed?
Jimmy Cloak asked, hobo nickels, are they counterfeit?
No, they're legitimate buffalo nickels. They're just carved.
Mm-hmm. How would you want to run a beautiful coin?
I mean, the idea behind hobo nickels, right, as I understand it, was back in during the Great Depression, people didn't have a lot of money, and they could take a nickel and somehow carve it and then sell it as a trinket for maybe 6 cents or something like that, and make a little money that way. I think so. I mean, I may be wrong. I don't think the purpose of hobo nickels, in other words, was just artistic. I think it was artistic, and then you can maybe sell it as a novelty. I could be wrong about that. I think that is an AWR upcoming story research.
All right.
I don't own any hobo
Jonathan,
nickels.
I don't have any hobo. Of course, I don't want any hobo nickels. I'm not into that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and if you have a legitimate one, they're expensive.
They are. They really are. All right. Well, thank you, Jonathan. That was very interesting.
Well, thank you for allowing me to present.
No problem.
I'll do this if it's easier. I'll just remove that from the studio.
Okay.
So
now we're going to carry on with our mint series. We are going to talk about the New Orleans mint. Let me get this pulled up. If I say I don't have a picture to go by, so I'm just guessing. I hope I got the right one. Did it? Well, kicked it out. Don't kick it out. Now my phone's or my pad's being slow. All right. This is the New Orleans Mint building. And we're going to learn a little French, Jonathan. See if I can do it as good as I did last night. In French, it's pronounced Monnaie de la Nouvelle Orleans. All right.
Excellent.
There is your French lesson for today.
And next week, Paul's going to teach you.
I can say oui, oui, monsieur. Oh, man. It operated in New Orleans, Louisiana, as a branch mint of the United States Mint from 1838 to 1861, from 1879 to 1909. During its years of operation, it produced over 227 million gold and silver coins of nearly every American denomination. So in our series, we had the Philadelphia that done the silver. Then Charlotte and Dahlonega only minted gold coins. So here we are in New Orleans, where they minted both silver and gold. And I will not sing that song. Like I said, they produced nearly every American denomination with a total face value of over 307 million US dollars. It was closed during most of the American Civil War and Reconstruction. After it was decommissioned as a mint, the building has served a variety of purposes, including an assay office, a United States Coast Guard storage facility, and also a fallout shelter. Since 1981, it has served as the branch of the Louisiana State Museum. It was damaged by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And after 2 years of repairs and renovation, the museum reopened in October of 2007. I forgot what the next picture was. Jonathan, go ahead and click to it.
There you go.
Okay, this is basically the blueprints, if you'll say, of the building. So let me back up just a little. You can leave it right there.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
Go back to the blueprints. As a
You say
result,
click.
I will. As a result, in 1835, the U.S. federal government established 3 branches of mints, and I just mentioned them: the Charlotte in Charlotte, North Carolina, Dahlonega Mint in Georgia, and the New Orleans Mint in Louisiana. Dahlonega and Charlotte were in gold mining regions, and these minted and produced gold coins. New Orleans was selected because of the city's strategic location along the Mississippi River, which made it vital, important center for the commercial and activity, including the export of cotton from the area of plantations. Large quantities of gold from Mexico also passed through its ports annually. In the early 19th century, New Orleans, which was the 5th largest city in the United States until the Civil War, conducted more foreign trade than any other city in the nation. It was also located relatively near the gold deposits recently discovered in Alabama, while Philadelphia Mint produced substantial quantities of coins in the early 19th century. It could not deprise the money swiftly to the far regions of our new nation, particularly in the South and the West. In contrast to the other 2 southern branches mints, which only minted gold coinage, the New Orleans Mint produced both gold and silver coins, and in much greater quantities and total value, which marked it as the most important branch mint in the country until San Francisco, which we will talk about later on, in this series on another string until the San Francisco Mint began minting largely monetary value of gold coins in the mid 1850s. All right, Jonathan. This is the arches in this was put in after the building was built. These are called shallow jack arches between steel I-beams, provide structural support for the floors of the mint. So I guess they found out that the machines and stuff was sagging the floors, so they had to put these arches in. Okay, John, click. This is an illustration by Alfred R. Wald from Harper's Valley, or Harper's Weekly, in 1867, showing the smokestack built behind the New Orleans Mint. Remains of the smokestack foundation can still be seen. Click. This is a scale that they used to weigh the coins out in the 19th century. All right, click. The New Orleans Mint operated continuously from 1838 until January 26, 1861, when Louisiana seceded from the United States. Excuse me. On January 29th, the secession convention reconvened in New Orleans, which they had earlier been meeting in Baton Rouge, and passed an ordinance that allowed federal employees to remain in their post, but as employees of employees of the state of Louisiana. So your regular employees that was running the mint before the Civil War, they had to become employed. They became employees of the state of Louisiana.
Interesting.
On February 5th, 1861, during the proceedings of the convention of the state of Louisiana and New Orleans, the committee appointed by the convention to take an inventory on February 1st, 1861, of public property in the hands of the officers of the late federal government. And they reported that the sub-treasury vault at the mint contained $483,983 in gold and $483,983 in gold and silver coin. The National Archives record in Rockville, Maryland, indicated the same amount, $483,983 consisted of $308,771 in gold coins and $175,212.08 in silver coins. They got that 8 cents. The only gold contained produced in January 1861 was the $20 gold double eagle. And we'll explain the double eagle a little later. This means 15,438 $20 gold coins were minted in New Orleans mint during January of 1861. Mint coinage records for the $20 1861 gold double eagle indicated only 5,000 $20 gold pieces were minted by the federal government in January of 1861. All right, Jonathan, click. Now this was a piece of flag that flew over the mint before the Civil War. And then during the Civil War, a guy by the name of William Mumford tore down this flag, and he kept it for himself. And this little piece was found, and but he tore it down from the New Orleans Mint in 1862. All right, click. This is a 1899 Morgan dollar. Some of the most famous coins today. They are most widely available of the types produced in New Orleans. All right, click. Now this is a weird piece. Who can tell me what this is?
I had no idea when Paul showed me earlier. No clue.
This is actually a water cooler. It was presented to let me find it. I did not highlight that. But this was presented to a guy. His co-workers gifted him this. This is a water cooler that they presented to him in 1891. All right, Jonathan.
Before air conditioning was installed.
Now we're just going to talk about the coins that were produced in New Orleans. We have a silver 3-cent piece. Year minted 1851. Okay, Jonathan, click. Seated Liberty half dime. It was produced in 1838, 1842, 1844, 1848, and 1860. Click. Here we have a seated, just regular seated dime. It was produced in 1838 through 1843, 1845, 1849 through 1860, and 1891. Barber dime. Produced from 1892 to 1903, and then again in 1905 through 1909. All right, we have quarters. The seated Liberty quarter. They were produced from 1840 to 1844, 1847. 1849 through 1860, and 1891. All right. Here we have a barber quarter. They were produced in 1892 through 1909. Okay. Cap bust, $50. 2 years, 1838 through 1839. Ceded Liberty, 1840 through 1861. All right. Then we have the Barber, 1892 through 1909. Now we're getting into the dollars. Here we have a Ceded Liberty. They was produced 1846, 1850, 1859 through 1860. And then everybody's favorite, the Morgan. They were produced from 1879 through 1904. And all those were silver coins, even though that one looks gold, that is a silver coin. All right, Jonathan. Next, we have a Liberty Head dollar. They were produced 1849 to 1853, and I did not have a picture for the Indian Princes, which is another gold dollar. It was minted in 1855. All right, here we have the classic head quarter, what they call a quarter eagle. It was produced, oh, let me back up. That is $1 coin.
Oh, there's the $1.
$2 coin, but the classic head was produced 1839. All right, there we go. Thank you, Jonathan. This is the Liberty Head. It was produced in 1840, 1842 through 43, 1845 through 47, 1850 through 1852, 1854, 1856, and 57. $3 coins, which I do not have a picture of. They was Indian heads. That was 1954. This is the Liberty Head half eagle $5 gold coin. You can click there. You thank you, John. They was minted 1840 through 47, 1851, 1854 to 1870, 1854 to 1857. Dyslexic, reading it backwards. 1892 through 1894. They also done an Indian head in this in 1909, which I don't have pictures. All right. $10 eagle. Known, that's Liberty Head on it. They were produced from 1841 to 1860, 1879 to 1883, 1888, 1892 through 1895, 1897, 1899, 1901, and 1903 and 4. All right, now we get to the $20 double eagle. It that don't have two eagles, for every eagle, for every $10 is an eagle.
That's right.
So the $20 would be a double eagle. Got the Liberty head on it from 1850 through 1861, and then the last one from New Orleans was minted in 1879. And that's the story of the New Orleans Mint.
Yeah, very interesting. They certainly made a lot of different coins.
Good night, Jimmy. Have a good night.
And yeah, I can't imagine working in any mint.
There's a lot more to the New Orleans Mint than I mentioned. I just hit the highlights. And that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, you got to hand it to those people.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can't hear me at all? Let me see. How about now? Can you hear me now?
And Jonathan has dropped out.
Let's see. Let me try something here. Hold on.
If you have to, Jonathan, go out and come back in.
All my settings look like I'm here. How about now? Yes or no?
I can't hear a word.
Oh no. Okay. I will leave and I'll come back in the stream, okay?
I guess.
All right. Let me do this.
While Jonathan gets straightened out here, let's no, I couldn't hear him at all. So I don't know. I don't reckon I had him.
All right, I just went backstage. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now.
You do? Oh, that's weird. Okay. All right.
Scott McClure said they could hear you.
Strange. Okay. That's StreamYard on a Friday night.
Exactly.
You just never know. All right. Well, we're coming up on 53 minutes. Wow. We have one more story. It's a short one. It's a treasure story. What would our streams be without a treasure story, right? We want to encourage people to get out there and research and maybe get rich. And if you want to put the Perry Hall treasure story up on our screen, Mr. Hughes, we'll dive right into that.
All right.
All right, here we go. Look at there and there. All right, well, this treasure story takes place in the 1700s in Talbot County, Maryland, along the Chesapeake Bay. And this story centers on a man named William Perry. Now, there are no known portraits, at least not that I could find, of William Perry, but we do know that he was born in August 1746 in Dorchester County in Maryland, and he was the son of a well-to-do merchant. In 1771, William Perry married Elizabeth Hindman, who was the daughter of a rather wealthy plantation owner in neighboring Talbot County along the Miles River. Elizabeth's father had built a large home and plantation there in the 1740s, and upon their marriage, Elizabeth and William were given the Hindman Plantation House, which at the time was known as Kirkham. Now, Perry expanded the property, making it one of the most prominent plantations along Maryland's eastern shore. Elizabeth Perry died in 1788, and her wealth and property passed to William Perry. Perry remained on the plantation, remarried a few years later, and renamed his estate Perry Hall. And by the 1790s, Perry Hall was an even more prosperous plantation and covered hundreds of acres. William Perry also owned over 60 slaves who worked the land and maintained the property. Now, to understand what happens in the next part of this treasure legend, we have to understand that at this time in American history, there were very few banks where a person could deposit their money. And for a wealthy plantation owner like William Perry, this could pose a problem. But William Perry had a solution to that problem. He kept his money in locked boxes on the top floor of his spacious home. And while Perry was at his estate, he could keep an eye on his money. Now, as well as being a plantation owner, William Perry was also a senator in the Maryland state legislature. And this is where the treasure legend comes into play. In 1798, William Perry began to prepare for his journey north to Annapolis to attend that year's state legislative session. The legislative session took months to complete, so Perry knew that he would have to stay in Annapolis during that time. However, William Perry did not want to leave his wealth locked in his home while he was not at his plantation to watch it. So, as legend has it, Perry decided to bury his money somewhere on his estate, and he did so with the help of his trusted manservant. Now, here we have to say that in this case, manservant is a euphemism for a male slave. The name of Perry's manservant, unfortunately, is unknown. However, William Perry was known to have placed a great deal of trust in his manservant. And in the fall of 1798, William Perry and his manservant are said to have buried a large portion of the family fortune somewhere on the plantation grounds in a spot that was known only to these two men. How much William Perry buried that day is not known, but it likely would have been a substantial amount of gold and silver coins. Now, with the money safely buried and other necessary matters in order, William Perry and his manservant traveled to Annapolis to attend the legislative session. However, on January 10th, 1799, while in Annapolis, Senator William Perry suffered a fatal stroke. News of the senator's death was carried back to Perry Hall, and his faithful manservant returned to the plantation. However, while on his journey back to the estate, the manservant was involved in an accident and unfortunately died. As such, the location of William Perry's buried treasure, which was known only to these two deceased men, remained a mystery. Generations of Perry's descendants are said to have searched the property for the missing treasure, but found nothing. Perry Hall burned down in the 1820s, and another stately home was built on the grounds. And William Perry's descendants owned the property until the late 1960s, when the estate was sold to the neighboring Kirkland Hall College, which remodeled and updated the home in the 1970s. Kirkland Hall College has since closed, and the land and the buildings, including Perry Hall, became part of the newly built Calhoun Merchant Marine Engineering School. And today, the building and land that was once Perry Hall still stands on the grounds of the Calhoun Engineering School in Easton, Maryland. Now, just as a side note, in my research, I noticed that there is a Perry Hall mansion located in Baltimore, Maryland. However, that is not the house of our treasure legend. So don't go looking for William Perry's lost treasure at the Perry Hall Mansion in Baltimore. But if you do have the opportunity to walk the grounds of the Calhoun Engineering School in Easton, Maryland, keep in mind that you may be walking over a substantial amount of buried 18th century treasure. So, Paul, get to Maryland. Get the metal detector. Or can you imagine? Yep. It's a legend, right? And we've talked about this before. Legends are such that they're legends, but there's some grain of truth in it. It could be a small grain, it could be a large grain, but there's an amount of truth to it. We know there was a William Perry. We know that he was a senator. We know that he had slaves. We know that he was wealthy. We know that there weren't banks at the time. So there are bits and pieces of truth, and you stitch those together, and logically, you have to say, this could be true. And if you accept that idea, yes, on the grounds of this engineering school, is buried a boatload, no pun intended, of treasure that somebody could find. Pretty amazing, I thought. I thought that was really interesting. That
Yeah.
the core of that story came from one of those treasure magazines that I showed you not too long ago, and I added bits and pieces of it from my research, but I had never heard of it, and I wonder if folks in Maryland have heard of it. I think who's the Aquachigger? I think he lives in Maryland. Maybe he needs to go there and start searching for it. Or Charlie Reiser, you're just kind of over the. Well, you're not quite there. You'd have to go up and around, I guess. Avoid Baltimore. Go through Annapolis.
All right.
Yeah, I know, Charlie. The amount of money that would be there, because again, this guy owned, if not the most prosperous, certainly one of the most prosperous plantations on Maryland's eastern shore, and the family knows that the money was missing. The money wasn't there, and
Scott's got a question for you.
Are you familiar with the recent treasure where a guy left a chest and clues to find poems or not? It was finally found. Yeah, it was found in the upper Midwest, right? In Montana or something. It Fenn's treasure? Is it Fenwick Fenn?
Yes.
Is that his name? Yeah.
I was trying to think of the name.
He was a wealthy antique dealer, and he did that. And I think that's really neat. And it took years for people to find it. In fact, if I remember correctly, somebody died pursuing it, and they wanted to sue the estate, and because Fenwick Fenn has passed away as well. Yep, that's it exactly, Scott. That's neat. I wonder if there are others out there like that. My daughter and I 2 years ago, it was during COVID. My daughter and I buried little treasure jars. I usually keep them in, little. We make our own bread, so the little like jars of yeast, and we put. Or no, I take it back. We have those jars. We're going to use those for part 2 of this. We bought some little mason jars, and we put little treasure, buffalo nickels and wheat cents and some silver in there, and hid them around town. And we said next time we do it, we're going to hide them and make one really easy to find, and maybe have clues in there as to where the next one is. And it's kind of like a geocache. Treasure stories are fun. They're fun to read, and they're fun to just imagine and say, what if? And yeah, why not? If you can do it yourself on a much smaller scale, of course, then why not? Somebody's going to have a lot of fun finding it.
Has anybody contacted you that they found some of yours?
They did. Somebody on our local Facebook community group said, "Hey, I just found this," and we had put our name in there, but didn't put any, email addresses or whatever. And so somebody knew. Well, we knew where they were found because we put them all in town, and they contacted my daughter on Facebook, and my daughter said, "Yeah, that is us." And we planted 3 of them, and he found one because he was geocaching, and it was in the same location as the geocache. He just happened to find the treasure chest, the treasure jar, I should say. And he opened it up, and then he, I guess, borrowed a metal detector or something and found the other one in the park. And he asked my daughter for clues about the 3rd one, and we gave him some clues, and he very kindly, it was cute. He sent pictures because he and his little boy and little girl, I guess, found it, and they had pictures of them holding it.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Hopefully it's something that, it's like anything else. You do it and try to make somebody else's day better. But they said they spent the whole summer, doing those little excursions in town, and they were in town too. So,
well, Jonathan, let's try to give away one of these stickers.
I really like the idea of that. Speaking of having little treasures there, let me do this.
If you have won a sticker, Let's give somebody else a chance. I would like to have 25 different winners.
So who's in
And
this?
if you draw the number one sticker, again, a 1963 Benjamin half dollar, will accompany the number one sticker. This coin's in pretty good shape. It ain't the best of shape, but it's in fair shape. There's not many in here that's not won. But like I said, if you've already won, let's give somebody else a chance. The question is, what year did the U.S. federal government allowed for Charlotte, Dahlonega, and New Orleans? What year did they pass an act to allow these three mints to start producing coins?
All right.
If you've already won a sticker, let's give somebody else a chance. Hello, Shelley. Thank you, Shelley. What year did the U.S. federal government pass an act to allow Charlotte, Dahlonega, and New Orleans to have a mint?
I gave him an upper range. I said it's before 1850. Since they were minting coins before that, they had to have. Well, do you want to say if they've already won? Well, it's going to be kind of tough, isn't it? I was going to say they could give it to somebody else if you want to actually put the coins in the stickers in people's hands.
I'm getting some guesses, but no.
Oh my God, I did it again. I have this tendency just to do that with my hair. And then of course it sticks up.
What year did the federal government pass an act to allow New Orleans, Dahlonega, and Charlotte to have mints?
Can I put another hint in there, Paul?
It's not in the 1700s.
It's after 1800.
It's in the 1800s, but before 1850.
Deej is in the ballpark.
Yep.
Shelly's getting warmer.
Hey, Marty.
So far, Shelly's the closest, right, Paul?
Yep.
Oh, I think I see it.
A ding, a ding, a ding, ding. We have a winner. The answer was 1835. And our winner is Miss Shelley Williams. All right, Shelley. Give me a number between 1 and 17, and I will count to your number to draw your sticker and a chance to win this beautiful 1963 Benjamin half dollar. Shelley, give me a number between 1 and 17. 5. Okay. Here we go.
And Shelly, thank you. I
1,
got your
2, 3, 4. This is your stickers, Shelly. If it's
Number
the
5.
number 1 sticker, you will also get the 1963
Go, go, go.
Benjamin half dollar. It is number 22. Sorry, Shelly. You will get the sticker though.
That's great. You get a
Congratulations, Shelly.
rare treasure. You get an AWR sticker. Yep. Holograph. Those are.
There's only one of 25. You'll have one of 25. I only had 25 made, so you will get this nice hologram Team AWR sticker.
Nice.
Nice shiny. Right, let me write Shelly's name down on number 22.
So now the probability of guessing the number for the Franklin, I'm doing it again, is 1 in 15, right?
1 of 16.
15? Oh, I thought 16. Okay. 16.
So I had 17 stickers.
That would be 16 then. Awesome. It's getting there. Gone from 25 down to 16?
Yep.
Can I put you on the spot and say who has won them so far?
Okay. We have Charlie Reiser won number 2.
Scott won once, didn't he?
Emily.
No.
Huh?
No, sorry, go on. I'm going to mute my mic.
Emily, Little Dirt Digger, was gifted number 3. Anthony with Brooklyn Treasure Hunter won number 5. Mark the Bird Hunter won number 6. Sharon Border won number 15. Mr. FLX John Donaldson won number 19. Mark Thomas won number 21. And then tonight, Shelly won number 22. And Marty is nuts about digging won number 25. So there we go. That's our Team AWR winners.
Congratulations.
Shelly, I think I have your address. Yes, Shelly. Now, Dawn could win one. So, and don't come in disguised as Dawn.
So can she play the game on behalf of Dawn? No.
I had never thought about that.
Can she be a proxy? Can Dawn sign a document saying, I hereby?
I'd have to have that in writing.
Signed and notarized, right?
Signed and notarized. You got her on lockdown, have you? Oh, no. Detected today, I found she had fun with Audra. That's good. Well, I am going truck hunting tomorrow.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, it's been I just can't get my heart right.
Wait, you'll know when it's the right truck.
Yeah. I had one, but the day I went to test drive it, somebody was done signing the papers on it.
I bet.
So that's okay. Wasn't meant to be. So
what are the mileages of used trucks down that way?
Anywhere from 180,000 to 300,000.
That is just it. It seems like up here as well, when people trade in their pickup trucks, unless they're leasing it, when they trade in their pickup trucks, it's got a boatload of miles on it.
Yeah. And then they're
Now-
going to arm and leg for it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not as concerned about high mileage. As long as a trusted mechanic looks at it and says everything here is sound and the body's sound. Yeah, but yeah, it's the rust
Check
up
the
here because of the
Carfax.
snow and the salt and everything else.
Yeah. That's chew on
Shelly, that's
glass
why you
and
send Dawn. Although, what's the name of that car dealership and online site where you can, is
Car
it Carvana,
delivery.
where you can like buy online and
Carvana or
you just,
Car
most of it's done
Deliveroo
online.
or-
You don't have to actually go there and sit and wait, but I don't know much about it. Maybe the tail end of it is you do have to go there. And
Well, I heard they delivered to you. So
is that
I
right?
mean,
Yeah. Well, somebody said you
Who-
can still buy vehicles on eBay, and they can do that. They say delivery charge or whatever, and they'll deliver it to either a central location where you pick it up, of course, or maybe they'll deliver it to your door. That's kind of neat. I don't know. Well, Paul, it's been a fun stream.
It has been fun. It went by fast too.
I've said this before. I do like these stories because I learned a lot about the New Orleans Mint, and I learned a lot about the Charlotte and Dahlonega Mint. And we started with Philadelphia,
Next
of
one,
course.
I think, will be the San Francisco Mint.
Oh, you're not doing Denver?
Yeah.
You're not going east to west? I thought that was your
I
plan.
may do Denver next. Then.
No pressure.
I mean, I got what we got left. We got Denver, San Francisco, Carson City, and West Point.
That's right.
So we'll get into the Denver Mint next, I guess.
You do whatever you want to do. I have a story that
I
connects.
wasn't thinking.
I have a treasure story that connects with the San Francisco Mint, and I have a coin numismatic story that connects with it, kind of sort of indirectly, but there's a connection. And if you do Denver, I have one about hold coins, and I have another treasure story already in the pipeline, Paul. It's been a slow few days. Well, not slow, but I've had some extra time at work, shall we say.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Deej. We're having a ball presenting this to y'all. And I apologize for not streaming. Life happens.
Sure
I'll
does.
be honest with you. I did get a little discouraged with the way my stuff was operating. Hopefully we got that figured out.
Yeah, it was smooth sailing tonight, don't you think?
It did. It did until you went mute on me.
Yeah. But we know I left. I was backstage, came back, and it cleared things up. So that's what happens. You figure that out.
I did get down in my back a little bit. Nothing too major. And thanks, Marty. I appreciate everybody hanging with me. And we have discussed earlier, we don't know if we'll do this every week, but we'll try to do every other week. Roll with the punches. That's right, Deej. And Jonathan has let me solo Jonathan right here.
This is one of those things. This is one of those things you get from the museums or whatever. It's Confederate. I forgot I had this. Confederate restrike $50 German silver pattern of 1861 with proof surface. A dollar back in the day. You can tell this is probably from the 60s or something.
Yeah. Hey, is that the spitting horse?
Well, I don't know who that would be, but probably Stonewall Jackson. So I don't know if that was a different one, but there wasn't that the reverse of because Charlie put in chat that they use the same obverse dies, but they just changed the reverse dies. And I said, yeah, that probably made things easier. But this is a different. I mean, this is just. I assume they made one like this. Looks a little hokey to me, but February 22nd, 1862. But I think that was the Confederate reverse that you showed in the. And by the way, Charlie, that's a Phrygian cap. That's not a pile of poo. Okay.
I thought it was ice cream.
I like your idea better. Your idea is a little more less coarse. Anyway, I remembered I had that. Let me do this.
Charlie says poo.
Okay. It was called the poo dollar.
Poo
Charlie
dollar.
has a hoop. Charlie, I think, unless he traded it or something, still has a poo dollar.
All right. Johnson, before everybody leaves out,
you can unsolo me.
What's going on tomorrow at 4:00?
I will. So, long story short, Mark the Berg Hunter has hit a little bit of a bump in the road financially with his job. If you want to learn more about it, you can contact him. I'm not going to disclose exactly what's going on, but Mark is the kind of guy who just supports all different channels. He's usually there in chat. He's usually in our chat, as a matter of fact. And he helps. He sends people things. He's donated. So the thinking was we need to help him out so he can get back on track, which he is. So we're holding on Mike Lyman's channel, MA Lyman 24, at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. We're holding an auction, and the proceeds from which will go directly to Mark. It's just going to be a PayPal. We're going to send it all directly to Mark. So the payments will be made to Mike Lyman. At the end of the auction, he'll take everything and shoot it over to Mark. So he'll have it immediately and use it for the necessities he has. There will be bars and rounds of silver. I'm putting up a Confederate coin and currency lot. There are silver Canadian coins. There will be other coins. Chris B3 Relic Recovery has written a book. He's putting 2 signed copies of that book up for auction. Anyway, I think there are 15 different lots. Richie, I guess, is putting up a kid's book that he wrote. I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, he's been writing kids' books.
I never knew that. So there's that. So there'll be different things there. And if you just want to go there and make a donation, that's fine. If you just want to go there and support him by being there, that's wonderful. But that's what's happening tomorrow, 4:00 Eastern Standard Time on Mike Lyman's YouTube channel. There we go.
All right. So everybody, let's get over to somebody Lyman 24.
I'm chuckling because FLX Detector said somebody will hold coins, and I put in chat, hey, I have a story about that, ready to go. And he just said, Civil War tokens would be another great subject to talk about. It's not here. It's upstairs in my backpack. That's another thing I have going, because I have this is one of the Civil War tokens.
I agreed with John. That would be interesting.
They are fascinating. There are 3 different types that were made, and I have the research done, but
all right.
So you might get your wish, FLX, or maybe it'll be a bad dream if I do it. But yes, do try to make it to that auction, Mark. So Mark, as they say, is good people, and he's why not help him out? If the shoe were on the other foot, he'd be there helping us out. I do believe that.
That is correct. Mark he's been gracious to us. He's has sent 2 metal detectors. One we give to my nephew, a video for that.
Oh, I remember that. I didn't know that was Mark.
He made me and Belinda thumb wrestle for the Macro Red Racer, which is discontinued now, but that thing works good.
Yeah.
Works real good. So we wish Mark all the best, and let's help him out and get over this hump. And I'm sure he appreciates it.
Yeah. So yes, there we are.
All right.
Well, thank you, Paul, for another
Well,
another stream, and we'll let the good folks know. Well, either next week or the week after we'll stream.
Yeah.
And
I discussed that a while ago.
Yeah.
And do that every other week.
Every other week and every other channel. So next time it would, pending anything, any technological disasters or any Russian hackers, it'll be on my stream. And
or storms.
Or storms, yeah. We'll go from there.
That's it.
Okay.
Well, guys, we hope y'all have a good night. And for all you fathers, happy Father's Day. It's Father's Day weekend.
Yes.
And we hope you have a good Father's Day.
Yes, indeed.
We thank everybody for being here. Until next time, if you're out there metal detecting, bottle digging, or whatever, we hope you find something good. Good night, guys. Johnson, stick around.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
It don't want to end.